James, this comes on the back of a new report from the government as well, looking at the value of Australia's energy as well as mineral and mining exports. It kind of goes to the back of what Sue was saying. Despite this momentum behind the energy transition, we still see fossil fuels and coal playing such a huge, valuable part.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Australia's had its earnings from its exports have hit a record high of 450 billion Australian dollars, and that was all driven by coal, really, and gas. So coal is now their number one export earner at $120 billion. So, I mean, that's not a result of increased production. It's really just a feature of the incredibly high prices. Gas as well. Australia is, I think, one of the top. It used to be the top LNG exporter in the world. I think it's dropped down a bit, but it's still a massive LNG exporter. So, yeah, it's really the economy is really riding high on this, and
right.
I think the future, looking to the future, it's yeah, go on.
No, I mean, talking about the future, I was going to ask, I mean, given that there is a global push to move away from fossil fuels, what does that mean for the Australian economy? How vulnerable is it?
Well, this is a really good question and a very difficult one to answer. I think you look at the figures, and Australia is desperately dependent on fossil fuels for its export dollars. So the future, I think the government in its forecast is quite bullish about the near-term demand for coal and gas. But looking into the future, coal, it's saying this is going to become a problem. Metallurgical coal is a really big export for Australia as well. It's about half of its coal is metallurgical, used in steel making. And the future for that is a lot brighter because there's no really other commercially viable way to make steel. So on that side, it's okay. Iron ore is still probably is the biggest in terms of volume export. That's probably got a future. But Australia is, looking a couple of decades into the future, it's going to have to start thinking about where its new exports are going to come from, and that's where lithium comes in. You mentioned lithium in your opening. This is still a tiny export, but so lithium is used in in the batteries in electric vehicles. It's still tiny compared to those other commodities we talked about, only about $14 billion this year. But that is where the future is, and that is where the excitement, I think, is in Australia's potential.